Get this party started. We talked about revving it up a little bit, so I'm going to beg you guys to help us get into the spirit of this real fast, because this actually is a celebration of life. I have been pulled from the scrap heap of life, and I have been turned into something inexplicably valuable that I did not understand or know could ever happen. And you've heard women all this week kind of tell you about the path they've taken. But, you know, you can see who I am. I need a little bit more rowdy in your game to know that I can be me. So let's go head on and do this. When I say new, you say freedom. New. Freedom. New. Freedom. When I say women, you say love. Women. Love. Women. Love. When I say celebrate, you say my life. Celebrate. My life. Celebrate. My life. That's what we do. Every day, every breath is a defiance. It is a radical act that I am standing here in this badass $8 dress. Hang on, let me let you get my best side. I'm sorry, Angela. Tricia, is this not your color? I had no idea why this dress kept talking to me off the rack. I kept going, we don't wear raspberry. I guess we do. I want to thank Yvonne for her message of hope. That's what I got from you. Hope, and that this is still the only place that can transform a broken girl into a woman of usefulness and who can be somebody's mama. I know her best friend, her daughter, and she is a bright light. She's a great woman, so congratulations. And Candace, your passion always says to me the one thing that I need to remember. This is about life and death. And that this program is a program of soul retrieval. It's not that I don't have a soul. It's about remembering that I have one that's worth fighting for. And you always embody that message. And I thank you. You tell us of the urgency with which we need to grasp this life preserver. I want to thank the committee. Trina, thank you for putting up my name. Meg and Peg and the committee, thanks for listening to her. You know, it's hard sometimes when you have a conference like this that's been going on for 32 years to put your money on the dark horse. You guys will never be able to use that one in your talks. It was a pleasure going to almost every single one of the meetings and the workshops. Ladies, you have a great program, a message of depth and weight that can pull a young woman back from the gates of insanity and death here in Oregon, and I want to salute you for that. You absolutely do have a program of integrity, and it's so awesome to be able to leave home and come home. So I absolutely appreciated your shares, your message, and how each and every one of you embody the dignity of a sober woman of Alcoholics Anonymous. Good job. Very good job. So this year's message theme is a new freedom. Our book says we're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. That I'm not going to regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. That I am going to comprehend the word serenity. And that I will know peace. Oh, man. You know, God could and would if he were sought. God has never, ever, ever ever made terms too difficult. There's just one little problem. I haven't quite liked the form of God's will. So what happens for me, alpha woman that I am, huge spirit that I am, reckless child that I am, I want to screw with the format a little bit. I want to keep laying on my terminal uniqueness and my suffering so that I could have it a little different. And what happened for me here in Alcoholics Anonymous, what our home group provides for us, is a way to access freedom, access effectiveness, access joy by a very kind of specific structure. So when I work with people, I tell them that I'm prejudiced straight up. I go, I'm absolutely prejudiced and bigoted. I only do the black parts. I don't interpret. I don't change. I don't tweak. I just have learned to look at my experience, lay it down side by side with the first 100 men and women who have found a way to live, to transform calamity into serenity, who have learned to walk through any kind of ups and downs that life has to offer and never ever even think of a drink. I have learned to just lay my experience right here and see, do I have this thing? Just this one. Am I a hopeless alcoholic? Do I suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders that I can never seem to solve on my own? Am I powerless over the first drink, not the eighth, like I always thought? I love the old timers because the old timers actually really talk about the AA and the disease of alcoholism that I best relate to. They used to call this disease a soul sickness and a mental illness. And you know, I just feel like we've just dolled this thing up too much. I have a soul sickness and a mental illness. I think that I'm not worthwhile. I think that life is too hard. I think that there is something broken and wretched and wrong about me. I think that, anybody ever do some work around the word? It's gone out of my mind. It'll come back. There's a word in our book that when I found out what it actually meant, I was set free from everything that was wrong with me, that I don't believe in the goodness of people. Contempt, right? Contempt. If I don't believe in the goodness of people, how can I ever listen and follow my sponsor's direction? If I don't believe in the goodness of people, how can I know that I'm home when you're standing at the door shaking my hand, welcoming me? It's so wonderful to have been given the keys to the kingdom to find out exactly what was wrong with me, but in a very narrow focus, right? I love it that we read chapter 5, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Do you guys know the operative word in that sentence? Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. What's the word? Right. Nothing here that's going to be the solution to my problem comes from me. That is why I have found and know that this is a spiritual program. But what happens to somebody like me is I come in here and I want to try to fix my life. I think I want to let you know, if I can only explain it to you good enough, what happened to me out there, then you would then know we could come up with a plan that I could identify as the right one that would then set me free and let me have this new freedom and effectiveness. But every single thing I think I need to do is never what I need to do, because, see, God always has a plan for me that is 10,000 times better than I ever had for myself. Now, that's not right when you live where I live. Because, see, I need to wrest happiness and satisfaction out of this world because I'm a control freak. Have you ever really realized why you drink? Because you can't stand life the way it is right now. That's the only reason why I ever drank. That aversion or revulsion with how my life is at the moment always drove me to take the edge off. That's control, my way, right? Let me back up a little. My sobriety date is January 12th, 1985. My sponsor is Sharon Crane, and she is a woman who holds the bar of sober womanhood truly to the heavens. God really likes her. And when she said yes, I always want to be that type of woman that just by virtue of being with me, you feel better about yourself. Isn't that crazy? Behind every great man, there always has been a great woman. Did you know that? We could name a few, right? But did you actually know that behind every great woman is a great woman? I don't think you know that. I'll give you a few. Anybody ever hear of Helen Keller? Who was the great woman behind her? Don't forget that. Anybody ever hear of a woman, Oprah Winfrey? Who was the great woman behind her? Maya Angelou. That's right. Madeleine Albright. It was her grandmother. Quit lying to yourself that you don't like women. Quit lying to yourself that you don't know women. I had to. The other thing I had to learn is that exact place in my sobriety and my psyche that I refused to go is where my power and freedom truly resided. The only way to get out is to go through. And every single thing I tried to avoid, it's time for a quick story. Everything I tried to avoid always grew in proportion to the level at which I resisted it. Right? So here's a little story that brought that home. I'm suffering one day. I'm not looking at, don't get it twisted. The character defects are manifesting out there in my life. And I'm thinking you all aren't treating me right. I'm thinking that the world doesn't understand me. I'm thinking that everyone is, prejudiced. Wrote a song about it. Like to hear it? Here it goes. Right? I'm thinking that, there's so many things that are wrong. Oh, blame throwers. Had 2 of those right here. Just throwing blame. And when you have a psychic experience that only these 36 principles, the 12 steps, the 12 traditions, and the 12 concepts of service can bring you, those blame throwers drop down and your boobs get bigger. I tell the guys, God makes us so that drops a little lower. But I had those blame throwers, and I was in it. And so I called my sponsor, and I'm just running down that list. Marilyn, you know that list, right? And this is what they did, and they said this, and I don't know why she said, and she doesn't like me, and every time I come up, and I, and you hear that, Sydney. And I was, Sydney. I was, what? Did I ever tell you the story about Bob and Mary and the cat? No. Yeah. See, Bob is married to Mary. Mary has this cat. Bob can't stand this cat, hates this cat. So Mary goes away to a woman's retreat. Ladies, be careful of cats when you get home. Mary goes away to a woman's retreat, and Bob goes, this is it. This is my time. He takes the cat. He puts the cat in the cat carrier. He drives 10 miles. He takes the cat out. He gets in the car. He drives home. Cat is on the porch. It's Saturday, he waits a minute. Sunday morning, he puts the food down, boom, grabs the cat, puts the cat in the cat carrier, puts the cat carrier in the car, drives 20 miles, goes to like something like a mall, throws the cat out, right on the 5th floor. The parking instructor flies down, gets home. Cat is walking up the street. He says, ooh. Mary comes home, he's got to be cool. He waits till Mary leaves the next week, and she's away at a meeting. He gets the cat and carrier, puts the cat carrier in the car, drives 20 miles, 30 miles. He goes to the next corner, around the bend, goes through the forest, goes down behind some tree, crosses a river, throws the cat out. Gets back to the road, hits his cell phone and says, Mary, is the cat home? She says, yeah, why? He goes, could you put that SOB on the phone? I'm lost. But wait a minute, here it comes. Do you get it, Sid? All those things that I'm judging you for, all those things that I'm raining down terror in my sponsees for, that I'm intolerant and prejudiced about, that I refuse to look at, those things about myself that make my gut squirm, I must embrace them because they are keeping me from coming home. This program is so awesome. I had to learn a little bit about how my alcoholism manifests itself. And alcoholism, going back to our old timers, soul sickness, mental illness, here's the mental illness part. This is the only disease where I suffer from loneliness, but I believe its cure is isolation. Check that out. That I can be in a room full of women who I have heard time and time again have my same experience, but what my mind does is always go to that one thing that's different. And I latch on to that terminal uniqueness. Alcoholism. Alcoholism really, I found, has nothing to do with the amount that I take. Alcoholism absolutely has nothing to do with the pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization that happened out there. A lot of people who aren't alcoholics who drink, they pee on themselves. They have car accidents. They're not alcoholics. You know? So it's not the inhibitions that have come out and let loose that make me an alcoholic. What I have to keep looking at, what you all asked me to do, is what did alcohol do to me and for me? Do I have this thing? Do I have the phenomenon of craving? That every time I take one, it takes me. You know, there's a beautiful image of phenomenon of craving, and all it is that King Kong movie. Jane, she's in his hand, right? She's got that beautiful 1940s satin kickback sling dress on. She's got the bob. She's looking good, perfect red lips. That's even in black and white. We saw how tight that dress was. And she's doing her thing, and she's screaming, and he's just walking. He's just walking. She's screaming, he's just walking. You notice the more he walks, the less she screams. King Kong, alcohol takes me. I never know where I'm going to end up. I have never, ever put a drink down. I never have. I have always been stopped. If I could manage and time my blackouts, you would have a different speaker this morning. I always drank to oblivion because oblivion is always what I wanted, because it was the furthest distance from being here and here and here and here. That's what I was always after, to never be here. Now, the interesting thing about that kind of illness is when I have been brought to Alcoholics Anonymous, the first thing you ask me to do is to be here, be here, be here, and be here. But again, remember, I don't like the form and how you ask me to do that. So don't ask me to wash those cups. Why are you handing me a mop to mop the floor? Why are you telling me to do the chairs or make the coffee or set out the cookies or stand at the door and shake my hand and shake people's hands and welcome them? This program was so divinely inspired. They knew a young woman like me could not handle the message that I'm hopefully going to be able to share with you today. They chunked it for me. Isn't that beautiful? God in this program is so tender and so sweet. I could only handle washing cups. Bill says, you may be one person in the world, but you may be the whole world to one person. I am so grateful for the women who have helped me learn that my life is worth fighting for. You know, there were times that my pain in my life was so great I didn't even know my name anymore. And you calling me by my name helped me stay. There are seasons to this thing. And as someone with 30 years, the best I can do is to look at that woman and see what season is she in. I have to stop answering the question and answer the person. But I can't do that if my mind is full of my own demons, if my heart isn't warm. I cannot do that if I'm running my own game and have an agenda about how my life is supposed to look. What about just being grateful that I'm this side of the game? You know, one of the things that I feel that happened for me between, I'll say, 17 and 26, maybe it was 12 and 26, is I got far away from the miracle of the magnitude of healing that this program offers. If I'm drinking, all bets are off. But it's not enough to not just not drink. I need to be free. And the old timers promised us if we did what they asked us to do the way they asked us to do it, this thing is designed to make it as though you never ever had the problem to begin with. That's this promise. So when I see women who are still struggling, I have to ask myself, where are they? That they don't know that we can be free. What happened to me when I was out there, what happened to me in that home at 2444 South Vineyard, that is not a badge of honor. It's the roadmap for you to know that you can live again. I don't have the hurt from that life. Let me tell you a little bit of my story. All my people drink. All of them do. I didn't ever think that sobriety was something that we could have, ever. I never even aspired to have it. When you asked me, Sydney, do you really want to be free or do you want relief? Do you guys know which one I chose? Relief. I didn't even know you could have freedom from this thing. I thought you guys were going to teach me how to drink like a lady, quite honestly. I thought you were going to teach me how to have not 8, drink 6, have 6 in an hour and a half and not 20 minutes, and leave the party favors alone. Stay off the table. Stay off the table, Sid. You know, go home with your draws. Right? You know, all my people drank. My dad used to have these violent fights with my mom in which he always hollered, and girl, you ought to leave that narcotic weed alone and just get yourself some of this brown liquor. Right? Aunt Emma shot Uncle Charlie at the card table because she was just tired of him cheating. You know? I remember my dad throwing my mom across the room and the police car would come up, and I remember him sitting in that really weird position looking at her going, "Girl, you know I love you. You know I love you." And she'd be going, "Don't go, don't go." I knew he loved her. I knew she loved him. Somehow love was never enough in that house. It didn't have an effectiveness. I used to sit here and think that my life was dysfunctional as a child. That would lead you to believe that they had a choice. You all gave me the greatest gift of my life, the first step. I am powerless over alcohol and my life is unmanageable. What does it mean to be powerless? I have no power to choose. If I have no power to choose, I have no choice. If I have no choice, I cannot control it. If I can't control it, I don't have any power, and if I don't have any power, I can't choose. When I really saw the depth of a first step experience, both of my parents who are alcoholics, my sponsor turned and said, "Now, Sydney, let's talk about your mama. Did she have the power to choose? And if she didn't, you cannot keep resenting her. She is an alcoholic just like you are. Let her go so that you can become your own woman." My daddy never meant to do those things. He didn't. And when you go through a searching and fearless moral inventory, as I did, it took 27 hours to read my inventory. I had a lot of resentments, baby. And you can tell I'm kind of smart. I got every one of them down there. And the most beautiful thing my group asked me to do is, you write your grudge list, turn the page, Sydney, realization. Have you ever done this thing to this person or anyone else? Most important question to ask yourself about all the crap you're complaining about. Have you ever done that thing to either the person you're angry at or anyone else? And 8 out of 10 times I had. So if I'm no better than the perpetrator, what are we talking about? That's that paradox, that crazy way that Alcoholics Anonymous has. That's how I know it's a spiritual program. They all drank. It was violent, it was crazy. But they had no power to choose. They didn't do it to me. It is not personal. It never was personal. And sometimes that's painful about our experience as well, isn't it? Because when you find out it's not personal, you're like, oh man, I'm not as important as I gotta change my story. You know the thing I've learned about the suffering in my life? It's actually not for me. Pain, life is painful, ladies. I think you know that. I think I could pick every single woman in here and know that you have traversed some incredible trial that you thought you weren't going to recover from. What does it mean, though? You know, I can choose to keep staying in that family, or I can start to look at, what did I actually learn as a result of growing up in that family that are actually wonderful attributes that have helped me stay, that have helped me learn? You know, my family ultimately gave me a lot of incredible gifts. Again, it didn't come in the form that I thought they would. But I'm really grateful to be the woman who I am standing in front of you today. There's nobody else I'd rather be. I'm really cool with how well I know I can take care of myself. I'm cool with the loyalty that I bring, that fierce loyalty. I'm the person you want when everything is wrong. I got that skill set. You know, I'm all right with it. I'm all right that I know how ugly life can be, but that makes your beauty that much brighter. That makes this morning, when I woke up before the alarm, just a delightful gift. See, I've had to slow this thing down and just kind of know. Our book talks about around, I think it's 84, 85, 86. Can I see this from an entirely different angle? Another reason why I know this is a spiritual program, because they're not really interested in A plus B, then C. He goes, we got that. But Sydney, can you take your life story and look at it from an entirely different angle? The angle that I've intended. And so I had to look that if my story didn't kill me, maybe that was never the purpose of it. Maybe I can let it go. Maybe, got sober. I was 19 years old. They plopped me at 7:30 Felicity House meeting. Go on, Marilyn. Felicity House meeting Wednesday night. A woman came up to me and she said, hello, Sydney. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. We've been waiting for you. At which time I turned to her and said, I always want to tell that story for one reason, well, two reasons. One is I'm so grateful I've never had to cooperate with the power of healing that's in this room. I also say that because if you sponsor someone like I was, don't ever be worried about what they're saying. Only look at what they're doing. And I stayed in that room. And I kept coming back to that room. I was belligerent. I stood up in the back of the room. I shook like a leaf. You talk to her, get off me. Get like a board when you tried to hug me, or I'd just keep circling around you. I had such commitment and intimacy issues, I couldn't even get on the elevator with people. I had to take the stairs. Anybody remember that one? I remember people used to say, we're all driving out to Santa Barbara to go speak. You coming with us? Yeah. I was in my car following. Control. Had to be safe, right? Doesn't matter. Judgment doesn't help. You all just kept loving me and kept telling me, come on, this is where we're going. The sunlight of the spirit, the sunlight is a disinfectant. Did you know that? It's a natural disinfectant. The wind blows, you guys know, it's pretty cold up here. That wind's blowing, you pull that coat tighter around you. You know that. When the sun comes out, that warmth begins to happen and you start to take those layers off. That's the kind of love I've had. I've always had that kind of love here. And as I went through my story and did the steps, the second step came to believe in a power greater than myself which could restore me to sanity. First you have to believe that you're insane. But it's very hard for a young alcoholic to believe she's insane because I survived by my wits. I was never letting you in my mind. And it took me a long time to understand that that's exactly where I suffer. The disease centers in my mind. Don't you love it? The things that got you to the party are actually things that end up killing you. My incredible tenacity to live, my resilience, my ability to scan a room and can tell who's got it and who's not. My ability to, all that street smart, all of that edgy, urban trauma crisis, getting in and getting out, healing myself, remaking myself, coming, it got me to you. I love that alcoholic girl that I was. I praise her. Don't get yourself twisted. I praise her. The gig is now with you. Her skill set's a little inappropriate. It's a little inappropriate. But that's okay. Because the other thing that the old-timers say is that through self-examination, prayer, and service, self-examination, prayer, and service, hang on, self-examination, prayer, and service, this is a program of re-education. Again, that cat that he's throwing out. I had to learn the love that I saw in my family really is love. It's not love. It is. And there's nothing wrong with my picker. It has been trained and honed in a very particular environment. And it picks exactly right. And if you look at how I defied the odds to get here to you, you honor that. It's now just not appropriate for this environment. And Sid, if you learn that and survive that, baby girl, we have got the greatest invitation for you. You can learn again. This is a program of being a lifelong learner. And when you're 5 years sober and your sobriety starts to get real tight, we learn again. And when you're 12 years sober and your sobriety starts to feel like, I wear a size 9. I wear a size 9, but around 12, 13 years of sobriety, it started to feel like I was wearing a 7.5. Learn again. At 22 years of sobriety, my clothes got real tight. Felt like if I had a little sister, I was in her stuff. Had to learn again. And isn't that the beauty? This program has always met me exactly where I am. 30 years in the game, I'm still finding things out deeper and more. I love that about this thing. Again, why I know it's a spiritual program. So I had to look at that family, and I had to really understand that they really did the best they could. And so when I got sober and they dropped me in Felicity House, some things had to happen. I would talk to my sponsor about what's wrong with my life, and she would give me a broom. I would come in and tell her how something was wrong with the world and they did me wrong at that job or I got fired. And she'd say, I'll meet you at 7:30 at the meeting. I'd call her and tell her I didn't have any money and they were putting me out of the house that I was in. And she said, great, could you go pick up Kim? She needs a ride. I told her you'd be there at 6. You know, spiritual program. Worrying about my problems, raging about my problems, ironically never solves them. You know? So they asked me to take a look at this relationship I had with this mom who wasn't a good mom. She wasn't. She wasn't a good mom to little kids. She wasn't a good mom to adolescents. And so they said, Sid, let's learn a little something about your mom. And I'm going to talk about moms because I think we all got one. Sydney, can you be a good daughter? That relationship was so contentious and so violent, I could only call for 10 minutes once a week. But my sponsor said, you have to stay on the phone for 10 minutes. You must not end the conversation. She must end it. And they taught me how to read People magazine or the newspaper. Oh, did you hear about what happened with those Rams? Light and polite conversation. You have no idea what it means to be mother and daughter, so take those off. Let's learn to be 2 women alcoholics together. 10 minutes, I watch it, get off the phone. Got good with that for a couple of months. Okay, Sid, send her a card. Let's talk about the cards, the times of the year that are important to her. Her birthday, her sobriety date, you know, Valentine's, whatever. I don't want to do Valentine's. All right, let's do Mother's Day and Christmas and, you know, send them. I don't know what to say. Baby girl, Hallmark will say it all for you. Go pick one out, sign your name. And no humor, because when you have relationships where there's resentment, humor does not work. Until there's forgiveness, you can't use humor. You have to know that. Sent those cards. Then it got good. Okay, you're cool. You know, I got a job. I'm doing some stuff. I'm whoop, whoop, you know. You know, I'm going, they told me, girl, you know what, you're an alcoholic, but the problem is your brain is eating you for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Go back to school so the rest of us can get a break. They had me in school from my first 28 days of sobriety. They just sent me to the community college. Again, lifelong learner. I love to learn. And that one single exercise, one woman telling me, Mirandy Babbitts, you've got to do something with that brain of yours other than think of yourself. You will go back to drinking. Give that brain something to do. So I was blowing up. I could go pick her up for 45 minutes, and here was the directions. Sid, she chooses the place, an hour, and only. It actually comes down to 45 minutes because it's going to be 10 minutes on either side driving to get to the destination. That's in, out. Kiss her on the cheek. You're in your car in an hour. Did that. Got up to 2 hours. We were going to movies. So this is back in the day when we had pay phones. I call my sponsor. She is such a... I swear to God, I'm spending all this money for her to do something, and I, went to the movies, and she doesn't like the movie I picked. And the sponsor said, hang on a second, what'd you just say? So I start going through those. She goes, no, back, go look for... What, the movie? Yeah, what'd you just say, the movie I picked? She goes, didn't I tell you? You get nothing but being a good daughter. You pick the movie. Bam. They also asked me to get the date, the year my mother was born, and to look at what was going on in the world and in this nation in 1932. Really try to get an idea what was going on for her, what were the influences. You guys remember what was happening in 1932 in America? Do you also remember what was happening in terms of our nation's history and our race policies and our policies for gender, what a woman could be? Do you realize that when I was coming into my full-blown alcoholism as a woman, there were things that I was doing day in and day out that literally, when she was growing up, women got lynched for and put in jail and killed? Maybe the high shriek and the urgency and the irrationality about some of the things she was doing, maybe it really wasn't coming from a distaste for me. Can you see this from an entirely different angle? There's mental illness in my mom's family. How does that look growing up? She was put in foster homes. What does the suffering mean? What is it here for? I had to learn all these things. And I remember, here's that, taking it from an entirely different angle. My mom had a hard life. Single parent, sent us both to school. My brother still says he's an only child. We'll let him work it out. We look exactly alike. I was in another state walking down the street and somebody said, "Snitchy!" That's what they call me. I said, yeah. Hey, how's your brother? We look just alike. Hadn't seen this person in 20 years. It's all good. I had to learn that because my mom's life was so hard, she actually deserved a good daughter. And could I give her that? Now, I didn't know you all were going to ask me to do that. I call her every morning at 7 o'clock to make sure that she slept well, and we call each other every day at 10:30, and she says, "Elvis, have you left the building?" And I say, "Good night, Irene." Yvonne knows about that kind of friendship, that kind of love. Many of you, Teresa was talking about that. The magnitude of the miracle of healing. Take the suffering out of the relationship so that God can come in and reorganize, right? But it takes a lot of hard work. I'm only saying that to you because getting to a place of forgiveness with my family allowed me to become a woman. As long as I stayed resentful and Velcroed to what happened at 2444 South Vineyard. I could not avail myself to the promises of this program. I kept holding myself outside of it. I kept telling you how different I was. So that's that. I want to tell you a little bit about my life today in a way that I just want to share with you. Alcoholics, and when I came here, so let me just go back to my first year of sobriety because this is important. Here's what they asked me. Sydney, are you willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcohol? I said yes, and I'm glad in 30 years today I didn't know what those any lengths would mean. Isn't it again the tenderness and the beauty of a loving God in this program? The other thing is they said, Sydney, where are you being dishonest with yourself and others? Isn't that a beautiful question? Where are you being dishonest with yourself and others? Newcomer, new people, don't answer that question. Just say, I don't know. Because the more you answer, that's more that you have to eat your own behind later on in the steps. Yeah. The other thing that they asked me is, Sydney, do you really want to live? And I looked down. And she said, oh dear, you're one of those. And she got my stuff together and she says, oh honey, I'm so glad you came to see me today. But when you decide that you really want to live, come back. She says, I've found that trying to help alcoholics like you are just too tragic. And she shuffled me to the door, 19 years old. And I stood out. She's the first person ever to give me the dignity of my own decisions. And before she closed the door, she says, you know, if you ever decide you want to know what your life is worth, come back. It'd be my privilege to help you. And she says, and I want to tell you one thing. It's only an alcoholic that believes that they know what their life is worth. She shut the door. Awesome. What was one of those questions in the sobriety panel? What can we do to get them back? Don't! Leave them out there! Nothing better than the dignity of your own decisions. Nothing. Life taught me. You all taught me. Of course I came back to her, and this is the most beautiful thing I have to tell you in my whole story. Weeks later, you know, not right away, come on. Sid, it's so good to see you. Come in and sit down. I got the coffee pot on. And here's the most important thing I want to tell you. This is when my life started. I said, you told me you could tell me what my life was worth. And she said, Sydney, you are so special. She said, you are beyond special. She said, you know, there's these Asian sea turtles. It's Asian mythology, spirituality. And they only come up once every 100 years to take a breath, a fresh breath of air. You know? And I said, mm-hmm. I said, but how do you know I'm special? She goes, hang on, I'm telling you. She says, this sea turtle only comes out once every 100 years and takes this breath of air. She says, you're so special. You got that sea turtle that not only when they come up to take that breath of air once every 100 years, they just stick their head through this golden ring that happens to be passing by. There's only one of you, baby, in 400,000 billion times. There's never going to be another one like you. And you have the ability to save somebody from the gates of insanity and death. Only you. You're going to be able to reach a population that I will never, ever know. We need you, Sydney. You. That's how special you are. So all I've been doing from that day to this is seeking that out. How did she know? And my job now as someone who's been given that great gift of freedom is how do I share it with you? How do I get you to see the enormity of your specialness? Elephants, they're real huge, right? want you to think of you all as elephants. Now that doesn't help an American womanhood and body type, but I'm taking the sucker back. I'm redefining it. Elephants, the biggest, baddest elephant out there. What was it in Jungle Book? We are the Elephant Patrol. You guys remember that in Jungle Book? Smashing through. That's what we are. But check it out. Got tiny little eyes. Have you ever checked out how small the eyes are on an elephant? Do you know that that herd stays together for life? Do you know that when either one of them passes, they come back to the place where that particular elephant passed, and each one of them takes that bone and scatters it? You see my enormity, I see yours. You keep witnessing the miracle in my life, I witness yours. I keep encouraging you, baby, be yourself. Be you with your superpowers. Right? Anyway, here's my life. You know, I did a lot to work on my life outside. I was the first person to ever graduate from college in my family, first person to ever get all those letters behind my name. You know, my mom says, girl, you need to stop that book learning. You got stupid. Just wash the dishes. You know, education can make you dumb. You start to overthink stuff, right? You know, I love my people. You know, I had the absolute privilege of living 11 years outside of this country, and that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I speak a couple of languages, and I traveled the world and all of that, sober. You know, I love the language of the heart because I've been in meetings where they don't speak a lick of English, and I'm right there with them, just hooked up, ready to go. You know, I've seen a lot of things. I've been granted a great, great, wonderful life. And so, you know, I found him. And he really was and is, maybe even to this day, the love of my life. And I worked hard to wrest happiness and satisfaction to build this kingdom, this life, he and I together. Love this dude. Love him. Restoration couch, 1904 Craftsman, the right colors, that native xeriscape garden. Girl, I had it going on. You know, got 7 more minutes. The sacred 7. And we were pregnant every single year from 2005 to 2011. And one of those years I was pregnant with twins, 4.5 months. One died, one was alive. I still kept hanging on. He comes from a huge family, 13 on one side, Catholic family, 11 on the other. He was French, so if anybody knows about the French, you know their historical perspective is they cut the queen's head off. Got to be careful with those dudes. We were trying to make it. We had the Audi. He had the great job. I had the great job. Kept losing these kids. And it got to a point where I could no longer have kids. All of the fertility treatments, the #1 neonatologist, on and on and on. See, I did all the things you told me to do, and I had all the money and all the stuff to make it happen the way it should. And still, success kept avoiding me. I just couldn't get it. Couldn't keep these babies. Couldn't hold on to them. Lost my ability to have kids and lost my husband at the same time. It was no longer viable for us to, check out that word, viable for us to hang in there. Had this cancer landscape, had to have a part of my body cut out. That's the good news. If you're going to have some stuff cut out, let them cut it out. I was trying to hold on to it. Bad mistake. I had to do all that stuff, still going to meetings, still hanging out, still slanging the message of depth and weight, not really talking to anybody about it. Because I couldn't understand how I was in that position, don't you know? I worked so hard to never ever be here. He was gone. I was going to die with him, so I was kind of stuck. That great job I had, they let me go. The aunt who told my mother that she was an alcoholic and introduced her to Claire Selden, who became her sponsor, she sat me on the porch that I now live in the house today and told me at 15, Sydney, I think you have a problem with alcohol. Great woman behind every great woman. She began to die very swiftly of bone cancer, brain cancer, and I was there. And it was one of the most difficult and beautiful things I've ever done in my life, to help another human being transition. And my only goal being, at that moment, she was a woman who hated God because she had suffered a lot in her life as well. And every day, every moment, all I wanted to do was help her find a loving God on her way out. Ursula died with dignity. I would walk down the neighborhood and people would come up to me and hold my face and say, "You did a great job. I hope when I'm old you're in my life." And I had nothing. I was living off of a little inheritance. She left me a car. I was sitting in an empty house, literally. And I could not figure out how my life got that way. And I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I called a sobriety brother and I was broken down. And he said to me, "I hope y'all have a sober black man in your life, because nobody talks to you like an old black man." He said, "What? Baby girl, wait a minute. Now hold on, hold up. Are you calling my phone like, now wait a minute. If anybody's got a message of depth and weight and can pull people back from the gates of insanity death, it's you. So what's up here right now? Hang on, baby girl. You got that drawer in your house?" What? You got that drawer in your house, you know, the one that has all that crap in it? You know, those coupons and screwdrivers and paper clips and pens and telephone chargers you never ever use? Yeah, go in that drawer. He says, "What do you got? Do you need a Phillips or a flathead?" What? "Do you need a Phillips or a flathead?" I said, "A flathead?" He goes, "That's right. Get your butt up, get to that junk drawer, and if you don't have it in the junk drawer, get out to your garage and get in that toolbox. Pick up the spiritual tools, Sydney. Don't you go out on me. Don't you give up." I called my mom, and I told her I couldn't make it anymore, that I had failed. And she said, "Really?" She says, "You are my dream. Every moment and every breath you take, you are my dream. You are going to be all right, Sydney. Stay with us, honey. Let us love you. Don't ever forget that if you could get through alcoholism, that was the testing ground to get you through the life of being a woman. You will not be better. You will not turn in on yourself. You are going to be the brightest light that AA and God has to offer, because you know how to love. Now you must love yourself. This is the new freedom. The new freedom to know these steps, these traditions, these concepts of service. Last story, because it's the one that's most important to me. I've always wanted to be Norm in Cheers. I love a big man. And Norm would walk in and they go, Hi, Norm. That's all I've ever wanted. You have to know what you really want. All I've ever wanted is when you see me in a room, you say one thing. Sid's here. Everything is going to be all right. So how I've had to do this is this. Here's the story. Last one. She had cancer. It was in her face. It was a tumor. It was terrible. They had to cut it out. When they cut the tumor out, they had explained to her again and again, and her young husband, that it might leave her disfigured. And of course, she was a beautiful, vibrant woman. She was in her 30s. She was gorgeous. They were at the beginning of their life together. They were doing all those things like I had been doing, all the right things to get on out there and build that kingdom together. But every once in a while, ladies, maybe you know, life presents us with something else. And the challenge is, do I turn away from life, or do I try to embrace it and live the fullest life that I have from exactly what I've been given right now, this minute? She had the tumor, it was removed, and it left her face in a horrible grimace. Horrible grimace, a beautiful woman, garish and kind of like a clown pulled up at one side. And she's looking at herself in the mirror and the surgeon standing there, and she's saying, is it always going to look like this? And he says, yes, you had a tumor right on the smile line. When I cut out the tumor, I had to snip a muscle. Yes, it will never, ever be the same. You will always look like that. Her husband, I don't know. It looks kind of cute. He leans down over her and he cocks his mouth to the side to kiss her as her mouth is cocked, to let her know that their kiss will still work. That's God with skin on it. I have had to fit myself to be a maximum service. This is the path that God has chosen for me. I want to help each and every one of you know that our kiss, your kiss, to this planet, to this earth, to your families, to each other, and to yourself will always work. Right? When I say new, you say freedom. New. Freedom. New. Freedom. When I say woman, you say love. Women. Love. Women. Love. When I say life, you say celebrate my life. Celebrate my life. Celebrate my. Let's stay.